The first time I saw him again, I laughed. Not because it was funny. God, it was anything but because sometimes the only way to keep from breaking apart is to mock the very thing you once prayed for. Ethan Calloway, my former co-star, my once best friend, my once something more, stood at the back of the rehearsal hall like a ghost that had clawed its way out of my past. His face was sharper now, his jaw cut like a blade, but his eyes, those eyes hadn't changed. They still carried the same storm that had wrecked me years ago. I told myself I'd let go of the stage, that my dream was a childish thing I had burned to ashes. But dreams are liars, and the stage has a cruel way of pulling you back, even when you've sworn to walk away. I grew up in a nowhere town in the Midwest, the kind of place where cornfields were taller than dreams and people spoke more about Friday night football than Broadway. I was the theater kid, the one everyone laughed at, the one who painted his nails black and read monologues instead of playbooks. My father called it a phase. My classmates called it worse. But on stage, I wasn't small. On stage, I wasn't broken. I was whoever I wanted to be. And for a while, Ethan was the only one who understood that. We met during junior year when the drama teacher cast us as leads in a production of Romeo and Juliet. Yes, cliché as hell, but fate doesn't ask for originality. Ethan wasn't supposed to be there. He was the golden boy quarterback who'd been shoved into theater for extra credit. I hated him for it at first. Then I heard him speak lines under his breath, raw and unpolished but full of something real. He hated that he loved it. I loved that he hated it. And somewhere between rehearsals and whispered secrets behind stage curtains, we blurred lines that weren't supposed to be crossed. But when the show ended, so did we. Or rather, he ended it. The night of closing curtain, he kissed me like it meant forever. By morning, he was gone. A coward's silence where promises should have been. I told myself I'd move on, poured every ounce of myself into theater school, auditions, bit roles. But the truth is, I dragged his ghost with me to every audition room, every stage. Then came the breaking point. A director once told me I had talent but no soul. "You're holding something back," she said. She didn't know that what I held back was Ethan. She didn't know that my soul had left the night he walked away. So I quit. I told the world, my friends, my family, myself, I don't want this anymore. I pretended that I'd outgrown the stage, that I was done chasing something that would never love me back. But it was a lie. I left theater for one reason only. I thought if I erased the stage, I'd erase him. Now here he was, standing at the back of a rehearsal hall in Chicago years later, like some cosmic joke. The director introduced him as the lead for a new production. I wasn't supposed to be here. I had only come because an old friend begged me to read lines for an understudy spot. I told myself it was harmless. Just one night, a favor, nothing more. But then Ethan Calloway opened his mouth and spoke lines that used to belong to us, and my world cracked wide open. He didn't recognize me at first. Or maybe he pretended not to. His eyes slid over me, then snapped back with a kind of startled violence. I saw his throat tighten, his jaw clench, and for the briefest moment, I thought I saw regret flicker across his face. But I didn't give him the satisfaction. I smirked, tossed the script on the floor, and said, "Guess some ghosts know how to dress up in flesh." The room went still. The director looked confused. My friend shot me a warning glance. But Ethan just stared, as if the last 4 years had been a fever dream he wasn't sure he'd woken from. After rehearsal, I tried to leave fast. I didn't owe him anything. Not explanations, not forgiveness, not even a second glance. But he caught me by the door. "Liam." His voice was the same. Goddamn it, the same. Low, rough around the edges, the kind of voice that clung to your ribs. I didn't turn. "You should save your breath for the stage. I didn't know you'd be here. Then we're even. I didn't know you'd be here either. And honestly, I wish I still didn't." Silence stretched, thick as tar. When I finally faced him, his eyes weren't storming anymore. They were pleading, and that hurt worse than anything. "Liam," he said, softer this time. Don't." I cut him off, my voice colder than I meant. "Whatever you think you're about to say, don't. Because I don't need it. Not now. Not ever." I walked out before I could crumble. But the stage is cruel, and I knew this wasn't over. The truth is, I had lied to everyone. I had pretended to bury my stage dream, but deep inside, I wanted him back. I wanted the boy who once kissed me under stage lights and whispered that the world couldn't touch us. And now fate had thrown us back together. Same stage, same story, same storm. Only this time I swore I wouldn't let him break me again. The second rehearsal felt like a battlefield. Every line I read came out like a blade. Every glance I threw at Ethan sharp enough to draw blood. I wasn't just acting. I was purging years of betrayal. And the worst part? He didn't fight back. He just stood there, absorbing it, his eyes heavy with something I couldn't name. The director clapped her hands. "Good. Raw. Real. This is what I want. Liam, you've got fire. Ethan, don't shy away from it. Let it break you. Let it bleed." I almost laughed. If only she knew how close to truth we were already cutting. After rehearsal, my friend Zoe cornered me by the water fountain. She was tiny, all sharp eyeliner and endless energy, the kind of girl who thrived on chaos. "You didn't tell me that, Ethan," she hissed, eyes wide. "There are a million Ethans in the world," I muttered, pretending not to care. "Not ones who look at you like that." She jabbed me in the ribs. "Spill. What's the history?" "There's no history," I said too quickly. Her grin widened. "Which means there's a lot of history. Liam, you're practically spitting daggers every time he breathes. What did he do? Steal your spotlight? Your role? Or, oh my God, your heart?" I stiffened. She caught it instantly. Zoe was relentless like that. "Bingo," she whispered, smug. "So he's the ex. Or almost ex. Or whatever tragic label you theater boys invent for yourselves." I shot her a glare. "Drop it, Zoe." Fine. But if you don't tell me, I'll just watch. And I promise you, I'm a better audience than a confidant." That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the cracked ceiling of my apartment, the hum of the city bleeding through my window, and like a curse, memories dragged me backward. The first time Ethan ever held my hand had been in the wings of our high school auditorium. My palms were sweating, my stomach in knots before opening night. I remember him reaching down, his fingers brushing mine, steady and warm. "You'll be fine," he whispered. "You were born for this." And damn it, I believed him. That was Ethan's power. He made you believe. In the stage. In yourself. In him. Until the morning came and you realized belief alone wasn't enough. The third rehearsal was worse. We were blocking a scene where our characters argued. Ironic, cruel fate. My character accused his lover of betrayal. Ethan's character pleaded for forgiveness. The lines might as well have been carved from our history. "You left," I shouted, my voice shaking with more than acting. "You promised forever, and you walked away." Ethan's jaw tightened. His reply was softer than the script demanded. I was scared. The words weren't in the script. They were his. His voice cracked on them. The director frowned, about to cut in, but I raised my hand. "Let him finish." The room stilled. Ethan's eyes met mine, burning. "I didn't know how to be yours. Not then. Not when everything in my world told me I wasn't allowed." For a moment, the theater walls fell away. It was just us, 16 again, trembling behind curtains, terrified of wanting too much. My throat closed up. Rage and longing warred inside me until I didn't know if I wanted to scream or kiss him. Instead, I shoved past him. "Stick to the script, Calloway." But his words haunted me long after rehearsal ended. Days bled into weeks. Rehearsals became a cruel rhythm. Anger, silence, stolen glances. I built my armor higher, but Ethan kept chipping at it, sometimes with honesty, sometimes with silence, sometimes with those goddamn eyes. And I hated him for it. But hate has always been the twin of love. One evening, after a particularly brutal run-through, I found him sitting alone on the stage. The theater was dark except for one work light overhead, painting him in shadows. His script lay forgotten beside him, and his head was in his hands. I should have walked past. I should have kept my distance, but something in me cracked. "You always did like the stage empty," I said softly, before I could stop myself. His head snapped up. Surprise flickered across his face, then something gentler. "Liam." My name in his mouth still felt dangerous. I crossed my arms. "Don't look at me like that." "Like what?" "Like you remember." He stood slowly, every movement deliberate, as if he was afraid I'd bolt. "I do remember." I swallowed hard. "Then you also remember leaving." His silence was answer enough. "I quit because of you," I blurted, the confession ripping out of me before I could swallow it. "You think you only broke my heart? No, you broke my dream. I couldn't walk on stage without seeing you." His face crumpled, the mask slipping. "Liam." I shook my head, my chest heaving. Don't apologize. Don't pretend you can fix it with words. You can't." But even as I said it, my body betrayed me, leaning closer, drawn to him like gravity. For a heartbeat, we were inches apart, breaths mingling, the ghost of a kiss hanging between us. Then I shoved him back. "Stay away from me." I fled the theater, my pulse a war drum in my veins. Yet the cruel truth was this. The more I tried to push him away, the more the play forced us together. We were leads. Our characters were lovers torn apart by betrayal, clawing their way back to one another. And every rehearsal felt less like fiction and more like confession. The director thought we were brilliant. The cast whispered about our chemistry. Zoe smirked every time we left rehearsal looking like we'd gone 12 rounds in a boxing ring. But I knew better. This wasn't acting. This was survival. The night we finally broke wasn't on stage. It was at Zoe's apartment, where she'd thrown a cast party with too much cheap beer and not enough space to avoid each other. I found myself cornered in the kitchen, a bottle in my hand, when Ethan walked in. His hair was a mess, his shirt clinging to his chest, and his eyes found me like a magnet. "You're avoiding me," he said. I laughed bitterly. "Maybe you're just following me." He stepped closer. "Liam, we can't keep pretending this is just about the play. Can't we?" I shot back. "That's all we are, Ethan. A script. A story. Something that ends when the curtain falls." His jaw clenched. "Is that what you really believe?"
Yes, elite.
And then he kissed me. It wasn't gentle. It was years of anger and love and regret crashing together. My bottle slipped from my hand, shattering on the floor, but I didn't care. I kissed him back, my fingers fisting in his shirt, dragging him closer like I'd been starving and he was the only air left. When we broke apart, gasping, the room spun. "This is a mistake," I whispered. "Then let's keep making it," he said, his voice raw. And for the first time in years, I let myself believe again. The morning after that kiss, I told myself it didn't count. It was a mistake, a moment of weakness, a drunken haze mixed with nostalgia and unresolved tension. Nothing more. except I remembered everything too clearly for it to be nothing. The way Ethan's lips trembled against mine, the way his hands clutched at me like I was the only thing holding him together, the way I let myself drown in him as if I'd been waiting years just to breathe that way again. Mistakes don't burn like that. Rehearsals became unbearable. Every time he stood too close, I felt my chest tighten. Every time our lines demanded intimacy, my body betrayed me, remembering the taste of him, the weight of him. The director noticed. "Fantastic chemistry," she gushed. "Raw. Electric. Keep channeling that." I wanted to laugh. If only she knew the chemistry wasn't acting. It was history, heartbreak, and a desperate hunger neither of us could bury. Zoe smirked whenever she caught us stealing glances. Once, she cornered me in the dressing room. "So," she said casually, adjusting her eyeliner in the mirror, "you two finally hooked up again?" I choked on my water. "What? Please. I may be a gossip, but I'm not blind. The way he looks at you, the way you're practically vibrating every time he breathes near you. It's obvious." She tilted her head. "Are you going to tell me? Or do I get to keep guessing?" I groaned. "There's nothing to tell." She raised a brow. "Then why do you look like someone just reopened a wound and kissed the scar?" I had no answer for that. That night, Ethan found me on the rooftop of the theater. It had become my escape, a place where I could smoke cheap cigarettes, watch the city stretch out like an endless neon ocean, and pretend I wasn't falling apart. "You shouldn't be up here," I muttered when he climbed through the window. "It's not safe." He shrugged, sitting beside me. "Neither is ignoring what's between us." I exhaled smoke into the cold air. "We're not doing this." "Yes, we are." His voice was steady, but his eyes were pleading. "Because I can't keep pretending. Not anymore." "Pretending what?" "That I don't want you. That I didn't want you every single day since the moment I walked away." His words sliced through me. I wanted to believe them, God, I wanted to, but my scars didn't heal that easily. "You left me?" I whispered, the pain raw even now. "You kissed me like I was your whole world, and then you disappeared. Do you know what that did to me? I gave up everything because I couldn't stand the stage without you." "I know," he said, his voice breaking, "and I hate myself for it. But I was 17, Liam. I was terrified. My dad had just found out about us, and he said," his throat tightened. "He said if I didn't end it, he'd send me away. He threatened to ruin my life. And I believed him, so I ran." The rooftop went silent except for the hum of traffic below. I stared at him, every piece of me at war. Part of me wanted to scream, to tell him that fear wasn't an excuse for breaking me. But another part, smaller, weaker, but relentless, understood. Because I'd been terrified too. "Do you think that makes it better?" I asked finally. "No," he admitted. "But it's the truth. And I swear, if I could go back, I'd fight for you. I'd burn the world down before I'd let go." My eyes stung. I turned away before he could see. "It's too late." But when his hand brushed mine, I didn't pull away. We kept falling even as we tried not to. Nights turned into secret meetings, stolen moments in dressing rooms, whispered conversations in dark corners, long walks through Chicago streets where we pretended to be just two friends catching up. But friends don't kiss behind locked doors. Friends don't hold each other like they're afraid the world might steal them away again. I told myself it wasn't serious, that it was just temporary, that when the play ended, so would we. But deep down, I knew I was lying again, because every kiss felt like a homecoming. Every touch stitched back a piece of the dream I'd buried. And that terrified me more than anything. The world, of course, never stays quiet for long. One afternoon, I overheard two of the ensemble actors whispering in the hallway. "Did you see Liam and Ethan? They're way too close." "Yeah, It's obvious. But, like, do you think the director knows? Or cares? I froze, heart pounding. This wasn't high school anymore, but the world hadn't changed that much. Being openly gay in theater circles wasn't new, but being openly us, with our history, our reputation, would stir gossip like wildfire. And part of me wasn't ready for that storm. Not again. That night, I pulled away. When Ethan leaned in to kiss me after rehearsal, I stepped back. "What's wrong?" he asked, confused. "This," I said, gesturing between us. "We need to stop." His face fell. "Why?" "Because people are talking. Because I can't." My voice cracked. "I can't go through being destroyed by you twice." He looked at me like I'd gutted him. "Liam, don't," I said, my throat tight. "Just don't." And I walked away, leaving him standing alone under the stage lights. But the stage is cruel and fate has no mercy. The very next week, the director scheduled us for the most intimate scene of the play, the reconciliation. Our characters, torn apart by betrayal, finally reunite with a kiss. The irony nearly killed me. When the moment came, I stood across from Ethan, every nerve screaming. The script demanded vulnerability, tenderness, forgiveness. I had none of that left to give. But when he cupped my face in his hands, his fingers trembling, his eyes searching mine, I forgot the script. I forgot the audience. I forgot the world. All I saw was Ethan. And when our lips met, it wasn't acting. It was everything we hadn't said, everything we hadn't dared to believe we could still have. The director gasped softly. The cast erupted in whispers. But I didn't care. For the first time in years, I felt alive. After rehearsal, I tried to leave fast, but Ethan caught me in the wings. "You can keep running," he said, his voice low but steady. "But I'm not leaving this time. I don't care who talks. I don't care what it costs. I'm done pretending." I wanted to scream at him. I wanted to kiss him again. Instead, I whispered, "Prove it." His eyes burned into mine. "I will." And for the first time, I let myself hope. Ethan kept his word. I didn't expect him to. I thought he'd crumble like before, fold under the weight of expectations, let his father's voice echo louder than his own heart. But the very next weekend, he proved me wrong. He showed up outside my apartment at 7 a.m., pounding on my door like a man on fire. "Liam, get dressed," he said the moment I opened it. His hair was a mess, his chest heaving, but his eyes, God, his eyes were steady. I rubbed my face. "It's Saturday. What the hell?" "I'm going to my parents' house," he interrupted. "I'm telling them everything, and I want you there." The world tilted. "Ethan, no." "Yes." His jaw clenched. "I've run from this long enough. If I want you, if I want us, then I don't get to hide anymore." My pulse hammered. Part of me wanted to slam the door, to tell him he was insane. But another part, the part that still ached for 17-year-old me, whispered, "Maybe this time he means it." So I went. The drive to his parents' house was quiet, tension wound tight between us. I stared out the window at the endless stretch of Midwest fields, memories flooding back. I'd been here before, once, during the brief window when Ethan and I were still new, still secret. Back then, I thought his home smelled like fresh bread and safety. Now it felt like a battlefield. When we pulled up, his father was already on the porch. A tall man, shoulders like steel beams, eyes like a hawk's, sharp, unforgiving. "Ethan," he barked, voice carrying across the lawn. "What's this?" His gaze flicked to me, narrowing. "And why is he here?" Ethan's spine stiffened. "Because he should be." My stomach nodded. Every instinct screamed at me to walk away, to let Ethan fight his battles alone. But his hand brushed mine. Quick, hidden, a silent please stay. So I did. Inside, the house was as pristine as I remembered. Family photos on the walls, trophies gleaming in glass cases. The air smelled of polished wood and unspoken tension. We sat at the dining table, his mother hovering silently in the kitchen, his father at the head like a judge waiting to pass sentence. Ethan didn't flinch. "Dad," he said steady, "I need you to listen. I'm not going to hide anymore. Liam and I, we're together. We've been in love since high school. You made me believe it was wrong, and I let that fear destroy us once. I won't let it happen again." The words hung heavy, like gunfire in the quiet room. His father's face darkened. "Ethan, enough. You don't mean this." "I do. You're throwing your life away." "I'm taking it back," Ethan shot back. "You raised me to be strong, but all I've ever done is run. Not anymore." My chest burned. This was everything I'd wanted to hear years ago, everything I'd begged for in silence. And now it was happening, raw and brutal and real. His father slammed his hand on the table. "You think this is strength? Parading your shame? This isn't love, it's weakness." I finally spoke, my voice trembling but firm. "No. Weakness is hiding who you are because you're afraid of what people think. What Ethan is doing, standing here, telling you the truth, that's the bravest thing I've ever seen." The room went still. His father's eyes cut through me, but I didn't look away. Not this time. Ethan reached for my hand openly now, lacing our fingers together. His voice cracked but didn't break. "I love him, and if you can't accept that, then that's your choice. But it won't change who I am. Not anymore." Silence. Long, suffocating silence. His mother finally stepped forward, her eyes glistening. She touched Ethan's shoulder softly. "I just want you to be happy," she whispered. His father's face was carved from stone. "If this is the path you choose," he said coldly, "then you're no son of mine." The words hit like a blade. Ethan flinched, but his grip on me only tightened. And in that moment I knew he wasn't going to run this time, not even if it cost him everything. We left the house in silence, the door slamming behind us like the final act of a tragedy. But as we walked to the car, Ethan stopped, his shoulders shaking. "I thought it would hurt more," he said softly. "It does hurt," I whispered. "Yeah." He turned to me, eyes red but burning. "But it also feels freeing." And then, right there on his parents' front lawn, with the Midwest sun bleeding into the horizon, he kissed me. Not with fear, not with hesitation, but with defiance, with love, with everything he'd held back for years. And for the first time, I believed him. Back in Chicago, word spread. Gossip moved faster than light in theater circles. Some whispered admiration, others sneered behind our backs. I overheard a stagehand mutter, "Of course they're together. Figures." But Ethan stood tall. Every time someone looked at us too long, he slipped his arm around my shoulders, daring them to say something. Every time I faltered, drowning in old fears, he whispered, "I'm here. I'm not leaving." And slowly, the weight I'd carried for years began to lift. Opening night loomed. The play had become more than a performance. It was our story, mirrored and twisted on stage. Lovers torn apart, finding their way back against all odds. Backstage, just before curtain, Ethan found me. The chaos of actors, costumes, and stagehands swirled around us, but in that moment, it felt like we were alone. "Nervous?" he asked. "Terrified," I admitted. "Me too," he smiled, soft and sure. "But as long as you're out there with me, I'll be fine." My throat tightened. I reached up, brushing my fingers against his jaw. "Break a leg, Calloway." He leaned in, pressing his forehead to mine. Break my heart again, Liam, and I'll haunt you forever. I laughed, shaky but real. Deal. The curtain rose. The lights burned hot. And for the first time in years, I felt like I belonged on stage again. Because this time I wasn't pretending. The night of the Broadway premiere felt like a fever dream. The lights, the murmurs of the audience, the hushed anticipation. It was all sharper, brighter, and heavier because Adrian stood just beyond the curtain with me. My palms were slick with sweat, not from stage fright but from the fact that after all the years of running, hiding, and burning, I was standing here again beside him. He looked at me with that maddening calm, the same one that used to drive me insane during rehearsals when I was 19. His eyes locked onto mine, silently asking if I was ready, if I still had the fire in me. For the first time in forever, I nodded without hesitation. The curtain rose. The play unfolded like a storm, and the audience clung to every word. Every line we spoke to each other was weighted with history, with truths no script could ever hold. When he gripped my wrist in one scene, I felt the ghost of every time I had wanted to hold him in real life. When he whispered his character's confession, my chest ached with the knowledge that my own confession had been waiting for years. By the final act, the tension was unbearable. Our characters were meant to kiss in the crescendo of the story, a moment choreographed, rehearsed, perfected. But when our lips finally touched under the harsh glow of the stage lights, I knew Adrian wasn't acting. His hand trembled against my jaw, his breath shuddered, and his eyes lingered shut too long for it to be only performance. The crowd erupted into applause as the curtain closed, but I stood there frozen, my heart pounding, knowing something irreversible had just happened. Backstage was chaos. Crew hugging, cast crying, producers shouting in relief. Yet in the middle of it all, Adrian grabbed my arm and pulled me into a shadowed corner. His face was flushed, his voice low but frantic. That kiss, Ethan. What the hell was that? I swallowed hard, afraid my voice would break. You tell me. For the first time in years, his confident mask cracked. He didn't have an answer. We stumbled outside after the celebration wound down, walking the New York streets where the buzz of cabs and chatter felt distant compared to the silence between us. Finally, Adrian stopped beneath a flickering street lamp and turned to me. You think I didn't notice? His voice was barely above a whisper. All these years, you disappeared, you left everything. You think I didn't wonder if it was because of me? I laughed bitterly. Of course it was because of you. I couldn't breathe knowing I wanted you and couldn't have you. So I gave it all up. I gave up the stage, my dream, everything. Because the only thing that mattered was whether you'd ever look at me like I wasn't just your co-star. Adrian blinked, and for once, he didn't try to hide the tears pooling in his eyes. He stepped closer, his voice cracking. You idiot. Do you know how many nights I wanted to call you? How many times I opened my phone just to type your name and delete it again? I thought you hated me for moving on, for not saying what I should have said. My chest tightened. And what was that? He didn't answer with words. He kissed me. Not the staged kiss, not the polished, rehearsed one, but raw, desperate, and aching. People passed us on the sidewalk, some staring, some pretending not to. But in that moment, I didn't care. The city could collapse around me and I wouldn't have noticed. When he pulled back, breathless, he rested his forehead against mine. What I should have said is that I loved you. I always did. And I was too damn scared to admit it. I laughed through my tears, clutching his jacket. So we wasted all these years because we were both cowards? Seems like it. His smile was shaky, vulnerable in a way I'd never seen before. But we don't have to waste any more. And we didn't. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. The show became a sensation, the kind critics called a performance you feel in your bones. But for me, it was more than reviews, more than ticket sales. Every night, Stepping on stage with Adrian wasn't just acting anymore, it was living. Each performance was a confession. Each kiss a promise. Each glance a vow that we were no longer running. Of course, the outside world noticed. The tabloids speculated. The whispers in backstage hallways grew louder. And some fans wrote letters filled with venom about two men daring to turn love into truth. But there were others, so many others, who thanked us. Teenagers who said we made them feel seen. Parents who said they finally understood their children better. Lovers who admitted we gave them courage. The weight of society's judgment was still there, pressing against our backs, but it no longer bent us. We stood taller because we stood together. One night, after a particularly grueling show, we found ourselves alone on the rooftop of the theater. The city stretched out below us, alive with neon and possibility. Adrian leaned against the railing, his hair ruffled by the wind, his eyes reflecting the skyline. "You know," he said softly, "the boy I used to be wouldn't believe this. He wouldn't believe I could stand here, holding your hand, without shame." I slid my fingers between his, squeezing gently. "The boy I used to be would be proud we made it this far." He smiled, turning toward me. "So what now?" I kissed the corner of his mouth, slow and sure. "Now we live. On stage, off stage. Whatever comes next, we face it together." And we did. Through the ovations and the criticisms, the storms and the silences, we lived. We built a life not out of perfect scenes but out of messy, beautiful truth. Years later, when the lights dimmed and the curtain fell on our final performance, I looked at Adrian standing beside me, his hand in mine, and I realized something. I hadn't truly given up my dream all those years ago. I had simply been waiting for the right moment, the right person, to make it real. And now, with him, I had both. The audience rose to their feet, the applause thundered, and tears blurred my vision. Not because it was the end, but because it was the beginning of us, of everything we had fought for, of love that refused to stay hidden. I had pretended to give up the stage, but in truth I had never given up. I had only been waiting to step back into the light with the one person who made it all worth it. Adrian squeezed my hand, his lips brushing my ear as he whispered, "We made it, Ethan." "Yes," I whispered back, my heart overflowing. "We finally made it." Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.